Hi, everyone. My name is Joseph Cohen. I'm the Executive Director of the American Civil Liberties Union of West Virginia. I have an important update on a major case that I know a lot of you have been following. Last May, you may recall, we filed a lawsuit on behalf of Stephen Mader. He's the former police officer who had been fired by the Weirton Police Department for not shooting a young black man that he determined was attempting to commit suicide by cop. Let me repeat that for those of you who aren't necessarily familiar with the case. He was fired for not shooting someone. We felt like we had to be involved in this case for a couple of reasons. First, we hear about so many outrageous acts of violence perpetrated by the police against communities of color for which there is no accountability. So often we hear about officers who are not prosecuted and are in fact back on the streets within a few weeks. But in Weirton, West Virginia, we have a police officer who was fired for doing everything we want police officers to do. He attempted to de-escalate a very tense situation. He did not shoot somebody that he reasonably determined was not a threat to others. By terminating Stephen Mader, the message was clear. Officers in the Weirton Police Department were expected to err on the side of killing people, and that is not acceptable. The second reason we wanted to get involved in the case is that there was an important constitutional concern involved. Under the Fourth Amendment to the United States Constitution, a police officer may only use deadly force if he or she has probable cause to believe that the target of that force is a threat of imminent bodily harm to the officer or someone else. Officer Mader came to the opposite conclusion. He reasonably and objectively correctly determined that R.J. Williams was not a threat to anyone except perhaps to himself. And once Officer Mader made that determination, he was not permitted to use deadly force under the United States Constitution. In essence, the Weirton Police Department fired Stephen Mader for failing to violate R.J. Williams' Fourth Amendment right not to get shot. And we simply refuse to believe that a police officer could be lawfully terminated for not violating someone's constitutional rights. Today, we're happy to announce that Officer Mader and the City of Weirton have come to a settlement agreement. As part of the agreement, the City of Weirton has paid a rather large cash sum to Officer Mader. And while we're happy to obtain some relief for Mr. Mader, we recognize how much work we have to do. The termination of Stephen Mader is yet one more window that opens, exposing a toxic culture that infects far too many police departments in America. We need to end the insularity and hostility towards community exhibited by so many law enforcement agencies. We need to give law enforcement officers tools to effectively serve their communities. And that means we need to invest in de-escalation training, implicit bias training, and crisis intervention training. We hope that the resolution of this lawsuit will send a message to the City of Weirton and police departments across our country that our communities deserve thoughtful, compassionate, transparent law enforcement. But we know that we have a lot of work to do here in West Virginia, and we're going to continue our work to resolve problems in policing as we see them. If you're interested in supporting our work, there's a link in the comments. Throughout the day, and in the coming days, we'll be sharing relevant news coverage of the case on our social media platforms. Thank you for listening, and thank you for caring about this important issue.